So an update for you. This from allthingsvice.com. Not to be confused with vice.com, which is a fine news reporting and opinion site. This is allthingsvice.com. They call themselves your intelligent guide to the seedier side. Headline is Accused Silk Road Staff, Where Are They Now? I had literally asked this question aloud on the radio. We were talking about the Silk Road, kind of the latest in Ross Ulbricht's case with some of the motions that have been and are being filed in his case. He's the guy who's accused of operating the Silk Road, which is an underground sort of black market for the internet. There are some legal things that are sold through the Silk Road, but for the most part it's known for the sales of illegal drugs. And was busted last year. Ross Ulbricht was the first arrest, but then later on in the year, they arrested Ross in October. Later on in the year, the other guys were arrested, the other three main administrators of the original Silk Road. One guy is Peter Nash. He was known by a few different names on the site, and one of them was SSBD. According to the indictment, he was the lowest ranked of the three pseudonyms, having only a role in the Silk Road discussion forums and not on the marketplace. That's right. They're charging this guy criminally for helping moderate a forum.
You got to be kidding me.
Talk about one of what should be the most protected of free speech activities. They're saying this guy somehow was involved in criminal conspiracy to commit hacking, money laundering, and
how's that hacking?
Drug dealing. Well,
they can call anything they want on a computer hacking, essentially.
So I don't want to say for sure what they mean by it, but I think that what they're talking about is that because the Silk Road allowed for hacking-related sales of products, that therefore they were involved in the conspiracy to commit hacking.
They're involved in a conspiracy to do all of these things that other people did through their medium that they, facilitated. That's
correct.
I got it.
Correct. So you could you could buy hacking programs of some sort through the Silk Road.
Which is crap, by the way.
Probably a terrible idea.
Script kiddie, stupid things, and some people were dumb enough to part with some Bitcoin in order to get them.
Yeah, they're there. And, of course, again, it's drugs that are the majority of the Silk Road the last time I looked at it.
It's too bad they shut down the Armory.
The Armory was what, Chris? Can you explain that?
You could buy weapons on the Silk Road, that you could buy machine guns.
It was a separate site, the
Armory. They made it a separate site. Like at one point, there was the Armory was a section of Silk Road, and then they split it off because there was some disagreement with making weapons available because left wingers like drugs too, but they don't want their weapons infecting their drug sales.
So with the Armory site, I did go to check that out before they shut it down, and it was pretty pathetic. There was only a grenade and some kind of gun that was for sale.
All there was a grenade.
It wasn't a very large selection at all.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine the shipping.
It's a lot harder
that has to be a lot more difficult. I mean,
because they have to ship it in parts in a lot of cases, from what I understand.
Right, and these things show up in X-ray machines and stuff like that, and if you these things are easy to get caught with. And I imagine my understanding was it was more than that. There wasn't much demand for it. Like people who were just sketchy about trying to do it, and they didn't want to part with their Bitcoin over it because they were afraid of them getting seized. There wasn't a great deal of demand. Was the what I'm told is why the Armory got shut down.
Well, I mean, if you're spending $50 on some weed or whatever from Silk Road, you don't feel like you're going to lose as much as if you're going to drop.
The risk is lower than a $900 gun or something.
Right, a $900 gun. What about a $5,000 rocket propelled grenade?
Sniper rifles.
These kind of things. So I don't know what the rates would be, but I would be a lot more reticent. First off, I just don't want that stuff, but I'd be a lot more reticent to play that game.
So, again, this guy, just one of the forum administrators, the lowest ranked of the three that were arrested in December. He was arrested in Australia. The United States has requested his extradition, or had requested his extradition upon his arrest. Under Australian law, unless the subject of an extradition request can show special circumstances, the person must be remanded in custody. Consequently, Mr. Nash was remanded in a Brisbane jail where he was placed in protective custody when a local newspaper revealed that he had worked in a prison before his arrest. Subsequent reports had him bashed by prison guards following a prisoner protest in which he allegedly had no part. Edit, clarification, Nash did not work in a prison. In his own words, quote, I have never worked for a prison. I used to work for disability services supporting adults with intellectual disabilities. It was a forensic service, though, and classified as medium security, but never a prison. I make that distinction very clearly because I've been a strong advocate for non-aversive, positive behavior supports my entire career, fighting hard to change the landscape of disability support. How ironic, I now find myself in the most coercive and aversive service model that there is. Nash was extradited to the United States in June of this year. He is now remanded in a federal penitentiary in New York, meaning he has so far served 9 months awaiting trial. Gary Davis is one of the others. He is accused of being Administrator Libertas. This is, again, one of the alleged administrators of the Silk Road Underground Market. The USA has also demanded his extradition, but he's in Ireland, and Irish authorities handled it a little differently, compared to those in Australia. Davis was released on bail for a nominal amount on the night of his arrest. Irish courts will grant bail for someone slated for extradition on the same basis as they would for a domestic case, i.e., if there's no evidence the accused is a flight risk, or will tamper with witnesses or commit further serious crimes. Consequently, by all accounts, Davis attends his hearings as a free man, though he has presumably been relieved of his passport and would need to report into Irish police periodically. Irish media do not seem to have much interest in the case since his arrest. To the story, here, the bigger story. We were talking earlier about the Silk Road. They arrested 3 of the administrators. The original guy, the alleged founder of the site, Dread Pirate Roberts, a man supposedly alleged to be Ross Ulbricht. His real name, Ross Ulbricht. Whether or not he's Dread Pirate Roberts, still has yet to be proven in court. His 3 of his associates, or 3 men alleged to be his associates in co-administrating the Silk Road Underground Black Marketplace, were arrested in December. We gave you updates on 2 of the 3 a few moments ago, and now here's the 3rd of those 3. We talked about Libertas already. He was one of 2 main administrators, and then the other was Inigo. And of course, fans of the Princess Bride movie know about Dread Pirate Roberts and Inigo Montoya. These were 2 of the characters in the film, and of course Inigo was known as sort of the right-hand man, if you will, to Dread Pirate Roberts.
They didn't have 6 fingers, I can tell you that.
That's where the names came from. And
hello, my name is Inigo Montoya.
So that should
kill my father.
Yep,
prepare to die.
That's who we're talking about here. But we're talking about somebody whose name was allegedly Inigo on the site. Andrew Michael Jones of Norfolk, Virginia, is the man alleged to be Inigo. And turns out Andrew Jones is a member of the Free State Project.
Signer.
Okay, signer, participant, whatever. He's, I think participant's the official term they use. He's a participant. He is someone who has signed the statement of intent, somebody whose intention it was, and hopefully he'll still get the chance to do this because he is facing life in prison. But it was his intention to move to New Hampshire and to get active to achieve more liberty in our lifetime. The statement of intent of the Free State Project is roughly that you'll move to New Hampshire and you'll exert the maximum practical effort to achieving a government that's maximum role is the protection of life, liberty, and property, as I understand it. It's my recollection. You can go to Free
They don't
State.
use the term government. They use society, but okay.
Okay.
Yeah, a society where the maximum role of government is to protect person and property.
Yeah,
is
I
my
thought the word
understanding.
government was in there.
I don't think so.
A society where the maximum role of government
government.
is
Okay, yeah.
to
Yeah.
That sounds right.
So go and check it out at freestateproject.org. But anyway, that's kind of the news is that he's a Free State Project participant. And that's what the news that I broke over at freekeen.com. Plus, there's more details on exactly what's happening with him. He is out on bail. According to the story at freekeen.com, which is actually kind of posted to the top of the site right now, he's accused of similar allegations as Ross Ulbricht, who is the alleged infamous site's creator and allegedly the head administrator. Of course, Ross has been getting all the news coverage, even though Andrew is facing conspiracy to commit money laundering, narcotics trafficking, and hacking charges, just like Ross, and is also, like Ross, facing spending the rest of his life in federal prison. Now, while Ulbricht was not offered bail at all, Andrew was able to get out on $1 million bail thanks to his parents, who don't have anything close to that amount of money, so they put up their house and both of their retirement incomes in order to secure a $1 million bond on their son.
Wow.
His bail conditions include 24/7 house arrest at his parents' house, and he cannot have any kind of interaction whatsoever with an internet-capable device.
Inconceivable.
His girlfriend, Birdie, who is also a Free State Project participant, is the one who reached out to me, and she and Andrew's family have set up a website to accept contributions to his legal fund as they can use all the help that they can get. The website to which you may contribute, which I've done, is drewsdefense.org. That's drewsdefense.org. Now, of course, she reached out to me in this case because they'd actually met me. Back 2 years ago, they came to, or about 2 years ago, in 2012, December of 2012, they came to visit Keene, as many do. Many liberty activists who are considering making a move to New Hampshire, they're going to come visit New Hampshire before they decide to move or before they decide to where they want to move. And he and his girlfriend had both come here. So I had met them, and so I knew who they were. As a result of that, that's why she, approached me, and she presented some information that sort of validated her claim. Because there's obviously the possibility that Andrew Jones, the person who was arrested and charged with operating the Silk Road, is not, in point of fact, this Andrew Jones. And of course, it's Andrew Michael Jones is his middle name. So there's still a small chance that Andrew Michael Jones of Norfolk, Virginia, who is a Free State Project participant and has visited Keene, is not actually the same Andrew Michael Jones of Virginia who was arrested for running the Silk Road. So she, presented some information, some ID, and some court lawyer attorney stuff, and I talked to his mom on the phone as well. So I'm pretty convinced, that this is the guy.
What would be the point in spoofing this?
To try to raise money.
Yeah.
Okay.
To scam people out of money. Okay. Basically.
Did you hear? Did you hear the story of when he got arrested?
Andrew Jones?
Yeah. When they came and they accused him of a crime, and he said, "You keep using that word."
I do not think it means what you think it means. Good job. You squeezed it in.
So back to the story here. So again, he was bailed out on $1 million bail. He's locked in his parents' house at this point, house arrest. And his mom, who's 68 years old, told me this about him. Quote, "He's very bright, kind, generous, and has always been an idealist. When he first told me about Bitcoins, he helped me envision a world where the central banks are no longer in charge of money. If it were instead a peer-based monetary system, so much good could come from that. I have hope for a better world thanks to his generation," which is apparently he's a millennial. Anyway, unlike Ross's case, Andrew does not face the kingpin charge. Plus, he has not been libeled with allegations of murder for hire, as Ross has. Hopefully, that will help with his fundraising ability. He's retained the services of attorney Samuel M. Braverman of New York, and the bill will likely be very expensive. As have many activists looking at moving to New Hampshire. His girlfriend and he made the pilgrimage to Keene in December of 2012 and came to visit a social Sunday. I met both of them there and truly hope that he can get through this difficult time with the minimum damage possible. If Andrew didn't administer the Silk Road, then he's a man wrongfully accused. But if he did, he's a hero. The Silk Road was and is the most important development to happen to the black market in our lifetimes. It has reduced harm caused from unscrupulous dealers selling bunk product in the streets and has reduced violence by making both sides of each transaction anonymous and separating them by distance. No one can get beaten or killed in a Silk Road transaction, and the underground marketplace has a rating system, ensuring quality dealers are easy to identify. This open, yet anonymous competition for international business results in product quality and selection going up while prices come down from what one would pay on the streets. Silk Road has literally saved lives, both of dealers and as well as users who would have overdosed on bad street drugs, but were instead able to get good quality product from the Silk Road.
Well, yeah, I mean, what they were able to do is that people there, although they have secret identities, so they have a what do they call that? A handle. A handle. It's their handle, and that handle gets ratings. So you log in under your handle's name, and then that handle gets a rating. So it's a situation where they're able to say relatively anonymous, but they're still able to provide customer service, and and that way the marketplace can work, because when you have a black market, the marketplace tends not to work because
it just doesn't work as well.
Yeah,
the black market works.
Yeah, but it's
been getting drugs to people for decades.
No, at this point, we don't have any violence associated with Silk Road.
That's right.
People generally got better products. You may not have known who it was, but just because you don't know whether the person's left-handed or not, or keeping a secret that they might really be right-handed, it doesn't matter.
So if Andrew Jones was involved in the Silk Road enterprise, he should be given an award rather than prison time. Of course, that would be in a just world that understands the insanity of drug prohibition, or any prohibition for that matter. So again, his defense site is drewsdefense.org. You can go there and donate to him in Bitcoin. You can also donate via credit cards / PayPal. And I'm sure he and his family will very much appreciate it. They obviously have not gotten the same level of press coverage that Ross has. And of course, if you want to help Ross out, please go to freeross.org. We'll come back with more. Your thoughts are welcome here on the Silk Road or whatever's on your mind. Hour number 3 on the way. This is Free Talk Live. One of the alleged administrators of the Silk Road is a man named Andrew Jones of Norfolk, Virginia. He is someone who is a Free State Project participant, but unfortunately for him, he had not yet made the move to New Hampshire. And so I haven't asked this question specifically, and I've intended to. I've been interacting with his girlfriend because he is prohibited from using any sort of internet-connected device. Again, the Silk Road, an infamous underground drug marketplace. They sold fake IDs, hacking tools, other things of questionable value. And it was this sort of just amazing site that for 2 years was completely unmolested by the federal government. They finally shut it down late last year in October when they raided and arrested the alleged administrator of the site, Dread Pirate Roberts, a.k.a. allegedly Ross Ulbricht. The site was shut down for approximately 1 month and has reappeared since as Silk Road 2.0, being run by ostensibly different individuals this time around, and it's running strong, actually. The current status of Silk Road is, in point of fact, I believe the last time I checked in there, they had paid back all of their customers. What happened was toward the end of 2013, I believe it was the very end of 2013, there was some kind of a hack that resulted in customers having their money basically dumped out of their accounts on the Silk Road, and they lost a lot of Bitcoins. And basically they came back and said, look, we admitted we screwed this up. The administrators of the new Silk Road said we really botched this one up, and obviously if you need to leave, we understand. We don't blame you for not wanting to deal with us anymore, but if you'll stick it out, if you'll keep going with this site, we will pay you back. They had records of whatever was in the accounts before they were emptied. So they allegedly have made all those payments. They allegedly have paid back through the continuation of running the site. Basically, the way the site works is they take a percentage off of each sale, in the same way that eBay does the same thing. Every product that's put up for sale on the Silk Road 2.0, a portion of that, I don't know if it's like 4 or 5% or something, goes to the administrators of the site. And so basically they've been, or at least they claim, they've been turning around all of those commissions into paying back the members of the site who lost money on the site, so I guess people trust the site. Even though they botched it up with the security several months ago, they're still going strong. There's thousands of listings on the site as we speak.
Everybody makes mistakes, and especially when you're an emergent business like online drug sales, you're going to see, you've got to mess it up in order to get it right. That's how business goes. Yeah, I could choose to switch over to another site, and they potentially could make some, have some problems too.
Oh yeah, there was one of the Silk Road replacements, because when the first Silk Road went down in October, there were at least 2 or 3 other sites that sprung up to take the business. People were looking for places to go, and so one of those sites was called Sheep Marketplace. And sure enough, they rounded people in like sheep and then fleeced them. Whoever it was that was running that site allegedly ran off with everything at one point.
And I imagine you could run off with quite a bit in a market like that.
Sure, because all you have to do is keep the market operating for a little while, and people will start to trust it, and then they'll start to hold money in it. And then once that amount has reached an amount that is worth shutting it all down over to the one-time quick take scam artist, then that's what they'll do. So that's kind of a history of the Silk Road up until now. It's still going. It's still going strong. So even though they're persecuting Ross Ulbricht and Andrew Jones, Gary Davis, and the other gentlemen for these ostensible crimes, which of course involve no victim whatsoever. Now, they are alleging Ross Ulbricht did murders for hire, but I think he's only been charged with that once in a district court in Maryland, and that's a separate case from the federal case against him or something like that. Maybe it is a federal case against him, but just in a different federal court. I'm still not real clear on exactly what's happening with the alleged murder for hire charge with Ross Ulbricht, but it seemed awfully convenient for when they arrested this guy, Ross, who, if he's Dread Pirate Roberts, is a real dyed-in-the-wool, libertarian, liberty-minded guy. I mean, they had like the Dread Pirate Roberts reading list on the Silk Road, and
but
this
Russ
guy
Ulbricht is too.
Russ Ulbricht is definitely a libertarian. I mean,
right.
that much there's no doubt about. But based on what Dread Pirate Roberts would say in his posts, in his publicly accessible posts, this guy was a real true libertarian, and so the idea that he would also be someone who would hire a hitman on his competition or something like that would just seemed so unlike
not
the
on his
character.
Competition. That was not the allegation. The allegation
There were multiple
was
allegations.
Well, my understanding of the allegations was that he hired hitmen to get rid of informants who were trying to extort him for money.
That was one of the claims.
That is a libertarian thing to do. If you are being coerced, you are being threatened with life in a cage if you don't do what someone says you have to do, that's a threat against your life. And he's responding to that threat against his safety. So I don't think that would be an unlibertarian thing of him to do at all.
Well, that's an interesting point, and I can see where you're coming from on that. Unfortunately, I guess he wouldn't have known whether that was really being threatened, right? And the other thing is he wouldn't have known whether he was targeting the right person. So when I was reading the indictment of Ross Ulbricht, and they mentioned these plots, these alleged murder for hire plots, which the only evidence they have for this is what they claim they found on the Silk Road, as far as the messages in his inbox, basically.
Well, one of them, as I understood it, it actually was an informant. It was I thought that it was a Fed. He ended up hiring a Fed to kill somebody, was what I thought the story was, and I thought they even sent him a fake proof of death photo.
Yes, there was all of this that allegedly happened, but again, it all happened over the Silk Road messaging.
And at this
system.
point, we don't have a lot of sort of. It's very unclear. What we're very clear with, as far as the drug charges and the kingpin charge and that sort of thing, they're not being very clear with this charge. I haven't heard
about the murder charge
that he's been charged at all. So
yeah, I had heard. Well, first we'd heard he hadn't been indicted on the murder, but then I did hear subsequently that there has been some sort of an indictment handed down out of the Maryland federal district court.
Okay,
that's my understanding of it. Please feel free to call in and correct, because again, I can't say I'm intimately familiar with that particular side of things. But again, the only evidence that they have for this is what has come out of the Silk Road copy when they allegedly copied the entire contents of the Silk Road server, the FBI. Who's to say they didn't completely manufacture this? Who's to say they didn't just come up with this as a way to tarnish this guy's reputation to make him look like he was hiring somebody? Because yes, there were there were at least two different instances that I can recall, and one of them had to do with someone who was ostensibly going to roll over on him and snitch him out, basically. But there's no way to know for sure. Like the person who was approaching him, or the person he was talking with about the potential hit, how do you know you've got the right guy? I mean, you've got an anonymous person on the internet. How do you know for sure that this person has ferreted out the correct information about this?
If he did it, he's a fool.
If he hired a hitman, you mean?
All those bitcoins he had, he could have easily turned over the website, Silk Road, to one of his
he could have taken a run for it.
Yeah,
is what you're
taken
saying.
The money and gone.
That's true. And then also the weirdest thing to me about the alleged murder for hire plot was that he allegedly made a bank transfer to pay off this federal hitman. To pay off the agent who was masquerading as a hitman, he allegedly wired money into an Australian bank account.
That's insanity.
It doesn't make sense.
That doesn't make sense at all.
I mean, Ross Ulbricht, if he is Dread Pirate Roberts, or whoever Dread Pirate Roberts was no fool.
Yeah, if he had the sense to be trading in Bitcoin and
in the first place,
trying to anonymize this thing, and then he goes into, for the worst count of the indictment, is the thing that he gave his identity away for. That's completely ridiculous.
Yeah,
That's
it does
amazing.
Make sense. So, I mean, to me, like the whole thing about hiring a hitman just seems so manufactured.
Stinks.
From the word go. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE, but it's not all about Ross Ulbricht. Andrew Jones is also facing similar charges. He's out on bail, thank goodness, and hopefully, I was talking with his girlfriend about maybe since he's out on bail, I was like, look, he can do things Ross can't do. Make a video. Have him talk into a video camera about his experience. There's more coming up. It's Free Talk Live. We have been discussing the Silk Road and the latest on what's going on with their alleged administrators. The Silk Road being the infamous underground black market that you can access only through the Tor allegedly anonymizing system. There was, of course, news recently that the Tor system might have some sort of problems. They claim they've solved those issues. Now, whether you believe them or not is another question. Obviously, there are people who believe in Tor because the Silk Road continues on today, unabated. And arguably as popular as it's ever been. But in the meantime, while the Silk Road is continuing, the original administrators, the men who are alleged to be administrators, are facing life in prison for not harming anyone at all. And we're going to continue to keep you up to date on what's going on with their cases, especially now that actually at the Porcupine Freedom Festival this year, I don't know if y'all heard about this, but apparently Ross Ulbricht's mother, Lynn Ulbricht, she signed the statement of intent.
Did she really?
Yeah, she became a Free State Project participant, as I understand it. And obviously Andrew Jones, who is the guy allegedly known as Inigo on the kind of like the second in command almost of the original Silk Road site, he already is a Free State Project participant, and so hopefully he'll be able to get through this with the minimum amount of prison time. I don't know. I mean, some people are optimistic about this. It's hard for me to be optimistic about this. I mean, just having seen the way the judge in the case of, at least in Ross's case, has kicked back the motion to dismiss that they filed earlier this year, kicked it back in their face, and was not very nice in the way that the order was written. Another motion has been filed by the Ulbricht attorneys, and we'll see what happens with that. I mean, obviously, they're trying to get the charges dismissed right out the gate without ever having to go to trial. And I'd love to see them succeed in that, but I know that in my cases, when I filed motions to dismiss, they've almost always been, rejected. The only time I haven't had a motion to dismiss rejected was when I was standing in court and the cop didn't come to testify. Then I motioned to dismiss the case. In that case, it was a speeding ticket, and the case was dismissed. But in
even
all of
when
the legal arguments I've ever made, none of them have ever been accepted for dismissal.
Even when the court knows that the case is frivolous, they very rarely dismiss cases. So when you've got a situation where that much resources have been sunk into the investigation, that the federal government is really trying to flex its muscles and be like, your Bitcoin and Tor network won't stop us from enforcing our laws. There's no way they're just going to throw those things out. I don't know.
But it's more billable hours for his attorney. That's for sure.
Of course. And I mean, it's entirely possible that the evidence doesn't stand and a jury acquits them. Who knows? But I'm willing to bet that these guys all take plea deals, and that's the hope that they have for themselves, I imagine.
Statistically, the numbers are with you. It's far fewer than 1% of arrests end up in going to trial.
Especially when you're facing life in prison. These guys are going to do whatever they have to see the light of day again when they're in a position. And I'm not saying anything bad about them. It's something that there's a self-preservation thing. But when you're facing that kind of time, and they're like, hey, you plead out and you'll be out in 5 to 10 or something like that. I imagine that they'd take it, and if I were their attorney, I'd certainly advise them to.
But the latest in the Ulbricht case, Ross Ulbricht, again, the man alleged to be Dread Pirate Roberts, the creator of the Silk Road. Just to kind of sum up the last story that we talked about a couple weeks ago, there's another pretrial motion that has been filed by his attorneys, basically arguing that the entire case needs to be thrown out because his Fourth Amendment right from protection from unreasonable searches and seizures were violated. That the government basically broke their own rules in the acquiring of the Silk Road server. And so because all of the evidence in the case is based off of what they gleaned from the Silk Road server, that it all should be thrown out based on the fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine.
I'm going to go ahead and say that flying halfway across the planet to copy someone's hard drive is unreasonable.
Is unreasonable?
Yeah, unreasonable. Yeah. It's unreasonable. There's no reason to fly halfway around the world to check out this computer.
So they go into some of the details on this, but I don't want to rehash it too much. Just kind of give you, because we did talk about it in greater detail a few weeks ago when the news came out. But I just thought it was worth giving you an update on that. You're welcome to share your thoughts here.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.